Hi, I'm Marco Rubio, and welcome to my weekly installment as we reach into our mailbag and our emails and answer some of your questions that you've sent to us either by email or in your letters. Now, in the last few weeks, we've been getting letters from Boy Scouts all across Florida who are on the path towards becoming Eagle Scouts, and they're trying to earn the Citizenship in the Nation badge. Citizenship in the Nation badge, that's right. They're trying to earn that badge, and so they've been writing us as part of that requirement, and we're here to answer some of their questions. So I'm going to read 3 of those today, which I found to be interesting and are pretty typical of the ones that we're getting. The first comes from Sean, who lives in Atlantic Beach, and Sean writes, "My name is Sean, and I'm a Boy Scout from Troop 40, working on my Citizenship in the Nation merit badge. One of the requirements is to email one of your state's elected officials and share with them your view on a current national issue. The national issue that I have chosen is the current talk about lowering the military budget. I have chosen this because I plan to join the military out of college, and it seemed like the issue of the budget would affect that, since a lot of the budget goes out to sailors and soldiers' pay. I was also wondering if the budget cut would mean a downsize in the military. If so, would it complicate the process of me joining the United States Navy in 2019? Well, first, Sean, let me thank you and congratulate you and your parents, not just for your involvement in Boy Scouts and on your path towards becoming an Eagle Scout, but for your interest in serving your country in the United States military. We are blessed to have young men like you who are willing to do that. Now, specifically about the budget cuts, let me say this. It's hard to imagine where we're going to get the money to make these cuts and still be able to provide for our national defense. And that's not me saying it. It's military experts. It's former members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that are telling us that there's no way to cut $800 billion out of national defense in a way that doesn't downgrade our ability to provide for the national defense. And you're absolutely right. A significant amount of our defense spending goes not towards programs, but towards benefits and pay for our soldiers and sailors, for the men and women on the front lines that are protecting us. So I think we should always be in favor of efficiency. I think if there is money being wasted, contracts being given out that shouldn't be awarded, that we should look at that, even in the Defense Department. In fact, I think Congress is often guilty of that. Too often, Congress, especially in the past, has forced certain programs on the military, programs that the military doesn't even want, because the person who builds that program happens to be a big donor or a big company in their district or in their state. On the other hand, America has built the most powerful fighting force in all of human history. It provides for our domestic security, and it provides for global security as well. At this dangerous time in human history, we cannot afford to downgrade that. The lessons of American history teaches us that every time America has reduced its ability to defend itself, it has paid a terrible price. And so your concern is well placed. And the answer is yes, it could impact the availability for folks like you to join the military in the future. I hope we can avoid that. Our second letter comes from a Boy Scout in Pinecrest, Florida. It's from Christopher, who writes, "My name is Chris. I'm a Boy Scout in Troop 840 in Pinecrest, Florida. I'm writing this letter to ask for your help in getting the economy started again. The economy is at a bad state. As a senator, your ideas for helping the economy should be great, but here are some of my ideas. First, you should help lower taxes. You should also try to start manufacturing more things in the U.S. so we can lose dependence from other countries and supply more jobs. You should also try to start drilling for oil here so we can stop being dependent from other countries. I am counting on you to make a difference. Sincerely, Chris." Chris, you touch on some very important points, things that I've talked about, and I'm glad that you feel the same way. You're absolutely right about the tax code. It's not just that taxes are too high. They're too complicated. The tax code we have is broken. There are things in our tax code that don't belong in there. They got there because someone went out and hired a good lobbyist, and that lobbyist got it put in a bill. And it really is an unfair advantage. It's called loopholes, and we should look at those. At the same time, for many Americans, particularly small businesses, the tax code is too complicated and too burdensome and too high. And that's why I think there's growing bipartisan support for simplifying our tax code, for lowering it and for making it flatter. That means the same for everybody. So the more money you make, the more you'll pay in taxes, but your percentage would not go up. Just the amount you pay based on the same percentage. That's fair for everybody. That's what they mean by flattening the tax code. That's something I continue to support, and I really believe it would help grow our economy. By the way, something else that I think would really help grow our economy is to lower the corporate tax. We have one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. It's one of the reasons why people won't manufacture things in the United States. And you talked about manufacturing in your letter. They won't manufacture things here in this country because it's so expensive to do it, especially because our tax code, our corporate tax code, is one of the highest in the industrialized world. One of the things we should also look at, by the way, is regulations. Regulations are all these rules that the government agencies write. These regulations cost money to comply with. And if you have too many regulations, sometimes companies decide, you know what, we're not going to open our business in America because we can't afford and don't want to deal with all these regulations that they have. So that's something we should look at very carefully. And finally, you talk about energy, and you are absolutely right. If you want to run a business, or especially manufacturing, you've got to have electricity, you have to have power. And unfortunately, and you also have to have transportation, the ability to move whatever it is you make from one point to another. So the higher gas prices or the higher electrical prices are, the less attractive America becomes. And that's why we need to develop domestic sources of energy, things like natural gas and clean coal technology, and also offshore drilling. It has to be done safely. We don't want to destroy our environment, but at the same time, we don't want to destroy our economy. We have to find that right balance, and we have to become more independent for our energy needs. And so I think you're on the right track with the things you point out, and I thank you for your letter. Our third letter comes from Joe, and Joe lives in Orlando. And Joe writes, "Hi, my name is Joe. I'm 13 years old, and I'm writing to you as a Boy Scout. I am proposing professional football team for Orlando, Florida. I think this is a good idea because it would help the economy. I also think it is a good idea because a lot of people like football and will bring more tourism. Thank you for your time and possibly considering my idea. Joe from Troop 567. Well, Joe, you don't have to convince me about professional football. I grew up as a huge NFL fan watching the Miami Dolphins, even though for a few years I didn't live in Miami. I actually lived in Las Vegas, but I followed the team closely, and it was a big part of my childhood. I have very fond memories. Not so much lately, by the way, and I hope the Dolphins will do better. And of course, in Florida, we have 3 NFL teams already. We have one in Miami, we have one in Tampa, which is close to where you are in Orlando, and we have one in Jacksonville. Now, obviously, U.S. senators and the Congress don't get to choose where teams go. That's up to the NFL, and they award these franchises. But if they decided that they wanted to move an existing franchise to Orlando or open up a new one, I would be all for it. Count me in. I'd like to help. So we'll see what happens with that. On the other hand, you do have the Magic, and they're a good basketball team, and you should continue to root for them. And in the meantime, we could always use more Dolphin fans. So we would welcome your support. Well, thank you again for all of these letters and for writing us again this week. As I said, we want you to understand that if you write us or send us an email, we read them. And we pick 3 or 4 every week, and we read them on camera. We continue to do that in the weeks to come. So we encourage you to send us your emails or go on our website. And it's a great place for you to send an email to us. And of course, you could always send it the old-fashioned way and just mail it through the Postal Service. We get them, we open them, we read them, and maybe next time, your letter will be read on the air. Thank you all for your support, your encouragement. It's my honor and pleasure and privilege to serve you in the United States Senate. I look forward to talking to you again next week. May God bless you. May God bless our country.